What would your home say about you if no one could hear your words? Would it whisper that you're holding on too tightly, or scream that you've given up deciding altogether? For many seniors, clutter isn't chaos. It's quiet, invisible history. A stack of unopened mail, a drawer full of keys with no locks, that coat from a colder life you no longer live. It's not just stuff. It's conversation you've stopped having with yourself. But here's the twist, most of us don't even see it anymore. The things we walk past every day are telling a story we didn't mean to write. And if you're over 60, that story deserves a fresh chapter. One that feels lighter. One that finally fits who you are now. So here's the challenge. Today, we stop letting our rooms speak for our regrets. Instead, we give them permission to reflect our peace. All it takes is one honest hour. Noryss is 76. She lives alone in a small, two-bedroom house tucked beneath a hill of pines in Central Oregon. If you asked her, she'd say her place is clean. Not magazine clean, but lived in. Homey. Everything has a spot, even if that spot hasn't moved in 20 years. She used to sew dresses for a living. Ran her own alterations shop for almost 3 decades. There are still threads on her ironing board and buttons in an old coffee tin. She hasn't stitched a hem since her arthritis got worse, but she never packed away the tools. You never know, she'd tell herself. Maybe I'll need them again. Her hallway closet is filled with coats from another climate. Back when she lived near the coast. Back when her husband was still alive. The back room? That used to be the guest room. Then it became a storage space. Then it became a don't open that door kind of room. But here's the thing, Noryss isn't a hoarder. And she isn't lazy. She just paused. Slowly. Over time. Life changed, and instead of rearranging her home to match it, she let it sit. Like a photo album never updated. She saved things because they were part of a story. An old purse from her sister. Gift bags she swore she'd reuse. Mugs from co-workers whose names she barely remembers now. Things that meant something at the time, and never got questioned again. It wasn't until a fall, just a small stumble over a misplaced bag near the kitchen, that something clicked. She sat on the floor longer than she needed to. Not hurt. Just still. Looking around, noticing for the first time how much of the house she had stopped really seeing. The clutter wasn't all over the place. It was just tucked in. Behind doors. In drawers. On shelves. Waiting for someday. But someday never came. And sitting there, Noryss realized that every object she hadn't touched in years was quietly asking the same question, why am I still here? That was the day she gave herself permission to let go. Not everything at once. Not with fanfare. Just one small corner at a time. With honesty. With heart. And with one rule, no more keeping things for a life she no longer lived. That decision started with just 1 hour. And it changed everything. Tough love sounds harsh, until you realize it's the only thing that actually works when you've been avoiding something for years. Noryss didn't start with a garage or attic. She didn't drag everything out onto the lawn. She chose a single corner of her home, an end table beside her chair. The drawer stuck a little when she pulled it open. That's how long it had been. Inside, receipts, pens that didn't work, 2 broken glasses, a birthday card from someone she hadn't spoken to in a decade. She didn't sort it like before, no more gentle maybe piles or someday bins. This time, she followed 3 hard, clear rules. Rule 1, if you haven't used it in 12 months, it's out. Not touched. Not seen. Not even thought about? It's not part of your life anymore. That flashlight with no batteries. The fondue set you never took out of the box. If it's not helping you today, it's only holding space. You didn't need a full year to decide. 12 months of silence already gave you the answer. Rule 2, if it belongs to an old life, it's out. This was the hardest for Noryss. There were things she kept from when she used to host family dinners. Big serving platters. A punch bowl. Even guest towels. But it had been years since anyone stayed over. Her life wasn't worse now. Just different. And it was time her surroundings caught up. Keeping tools for a version of yourself that no longer fits can make you feel stuck in time, like you're living in someone else's story. Rule 3, if it triggers guilt or dread, it's gone. That half-finished craft project. The jeans she swore she'd fit into again. The books she kept meaning to read but never did. These aren't helpful reminders. They are quiet disappointments, silently nagging at you every time you pass by. Letting them go doesn't mean giving up, it means giving yourself grace. The magic isn't in the stuff, it's in the boundary. 1 hour. 1 zone. No mercy. Noryss didn't cry. She didn't second-guess. She just followed the rules. The trash bag filled. The drawer opened easily again. She even found a small journal she'd forgotten, tucked at the back, still blank. That hour didn't just clear space. It rewired something inside her. And when the timer buzzed, she didn't want to stop. But she did. Because the rule wasn't just about letting go, it was also about learning not to overdo. Not to burn out. To build a habit she could actually repeat. 1 hour. 3 rules. That's it. And it worked. There's a sneaky little trap in every decluttering attempt, and it wears the name maybe. Noryss used to say, "I'll decide later." And like most seniors who've lived full, complicated lives, she meant it. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. Later almost never comes. Her maybe pile started small, an old scarf she hadn't worn in years, a book she swore she'd finish, a tea set from a cousin she didn't even talk to anymore. It all got stacked neatly in the corner of her spare room. Just until I'm sure, she told herself. But the pile grew. Slowly. Silently. And by the time she noticed, it wasn't a pile, it was a shadow. A space filled with unresolved decisions. That's what maybe really is. Not a pause. Not a plan. It's emotional storage. It's where we put our guilt, our fear, our uncertainty. It's where we hide the things we don't have the heart to let go of, but no longer have room for in our real lives. And it feels harmless at first. A bin here, a shelf there. But it adds up. Not just in space, but in energy. Because every time you see that pile, your brain quietly whispers, "You still haven't dealt with this." And whether you realize it or not, that whisper chips away at your peace. For Noryss, her maybe pile was hiding in plain sight. Covered by a blanket in the corner. She hadn't touched it in 3 years. When she finally looked through it, she couldn't remember why she saved half the things inside. She picked up a sweater and asked herself, did I even like this? She didn't. So why had she carried it for so long? Because saying maybe feels gentle. It feels kinder. But in reality, it's just a softer way to delay clarity. And for seniors, those delayed decisions are dangerous, not because of the stuff, but because of what it costs emotionally. Noryss decided something that day, something she'd never dared before. No more maybe piles. Anything she couldn't say yes to with full certainty? She said no. And here's the twist, she didn't regret a single thing she let go. Not one. There were no mistakes. Only relief. The maybe pile wants you to believe you're playing it safe. But really, you're just standing still. Give yourself permission to move forward. Not someday. Now. Guilt is quiet. It doesn't shout, it sits. On your shelf. In your closet. Inside that untouched drawer you avoid opening. And for many seniors, guilt becomes one of the heaviest things we own. Noryss discovered this not during a big clean-out, but in a small moment, standing over a decorative plate she hadn't touched in over 20 years. It had belonged to her mother-in-law. It wasn't ugly, but it wasn't her style either. Still, she kept it. Moved it from house to house. Wrapped it carefully in every move. Why? Not because she loved it. Because she felt obligated. That's when she created what she now calls her guilt audit. A simple, private test that anyone can do. No judgment. No audience. Just one question per item. Why am I keeping this? Is it joy, or is it fear? Is it love, or is it pressure? Is this object honoring someone, or trapping me in their memory? She started with the plate. Then the sweater from her late sister. Then the stack of letters from someone who'd hurt her long ago. Each item carried a feeling she hadn't named before. Some were kind. Others were heavy. A few even made her angry. Here's what she learned: guilt disguises itself as love. But real love doesn't weigh you down. It doesn't drain your energy or clutter your space. It doesn't make you feel like a bad person when you let something go. Noryss isn't alone in this. Many seniors, especially women, carry guilt in physical form. It gifts we never used. It projects we never finished. It keepsakes we didn't even ask for. We save them because we think we're supposed to. That we're being selfish if we don't. That someone might find out and be disappointed. But here's the truth: your home is not a museum of other people's expectations. Letting go of something that holds guilt doesn't mean letting go of the person or the memory. It means choosing peace over pressure. It means making space for what nurtures you now. The guilt audit doesn't require hours. Just honesty. Pick up the object. Ask the question. Listen to your gut. And if your hand hesitates, there's your answer. If it's tied to pain, dread, or duty, you're allowed to release it. And no one gets to call that selfish. That's wisdom. That's freedom. That's what moving forward actually feels like. It wasn't dramatic. There was no makeover crew, no massive before and after. Just Noryss, a chair pulled up to a shelf in her hallway, and a quiet hour with the door closed. That's how it started. She didn't aim to clear the whole house. In fact, she told herself it would just be a warm-up, one shelf, one timer, one honest attempt. But that single shelf had been untouched for so long that it had become invisible. It held greeting cards, candles too melted to stand straight, expired batteries, and 3 half-used rolls of tape. Nothing important, and yet, she kept walking past it like it didn't exist. This time, she didn't just dust it. She faced it. And something surprising happened. As the shelf cleared, so did the pressure in her chest. For the first time in years, she wasn't adding one more item. She was subtracting. Releasing. Lightening. It was like pulling a thorn you didn't know was there. Subtle. Strange. Immediate. She tossed out what no longer served her. Set aside what might help someone else. And when she stepped back, she saw space. Not emptiness. Space. A small, bare surface. Quiet. Undecorated. Not demanding attention or explanation. And that silence, it felt like peace. For years, she'd thought clutter was just part of aging. That things accumulated because life kept moving and she didn't. But in that 1 hour, she realized something deeper. It wasn't about the stuff. It was about permission. Permission to say, this can go. Permission to say, that version of me is done. Permission to stop apologizing for not being able to keep everything forever. Noryss didn't feel sad. She felt strong. And that single shelf did something no resolution ever had. It gave her momentum. She didn't feel behind. She didn't feel overwhelmed. She felt capable. Because if she could reclaim one space in an hour, what else might be possible? She didn't rush to the next room. She didn't fill her calendar with cleaning goals. She just enjoyed the sight of that shelf, simple, still, and honest. Sometimes transformation doesn't look like a new home. It looks like finally feeling at home in your own space. And all it takes is one shelf. One decision. One real hour. Decluttering doesn't have to be a dramatic, all-at-once event. In fact, that's where most people get stuck, thinking they need to overhaul everything in one weekend. But what if it became something gentler? Something rhythmic? Something sacred? That's what Noryss decided after her first shelf-clearing experience. She didn't want to fall back into the pattern of waiting years before doing it again. So she created something she could return to, a practice, not a project. She picked one day a month. The first Saturday. Mid-morning, when the light hit her living room just right. She didn't turn on music. She didn't watch a Declutter with me video. She didn't answer the phone. She lit a candle. Not for the scent, really, but for the signal. The flicker told her mind, this is time for clearing. Not just of drawers and papers, but of noise, of mental build-up, of old decisions left unfinished. This wasn't busy work. It was reflection. Quiet movement. A space for her thoughts to catch up with her space. Sometimes she chose a single drawer. Other times it was just one shelf in the fridge. The task didn't matter as much as the intention behind it. She wasn't just getting rid of things, she was tending to herself. Giving care to the corners of her life that were too easy to ignore. And the candle? It stayed lit until the space was finished. It became her timer, her mood setter, her soft boundary. When it burned out, she stopped. Whether she was finished or not. This monthly ritual did something deeper than decluttering. It created a moment of stillness in a world that often rushes seniors to the side. It reminded her that her choices still mattered. That she was still shaping her space, not just maintaining it. She started keeping a small notebook beside the candle. Not for lists, but for reflection. One sentence after each session. I let go of the baking tins today. And it felt okay. Found an old photo I thought I'd lost. It's getting easier to know what belongs here. Those pages began to hold something more meaningful than to-do lists ever could. They held evidence of progress, of presence, of permission. Rituals aren't routines. They're reminders that you can change at any age. That peace is built in small, repeated steps. That healing doesn't need fanfare, just consistency. One day a month. One candle. One quiet act of reclaiming your space. And over time, that ritual becomes a rhythm. And that rhythm becomes your own quiet freedom. Sometimes the hardest part of letting go isn't the stuff, it's the voices. And often, those voices belong to the people we love the most. After Noryss began her monthly decluttering ritual, something unexpected happened. Her daughter, Callan, came to visit. As soon as she saw the newly cleared hallway cabinet, her face changed. You're not getting rid of everything, are you? It wasn't angry. Just tight. Protective. And underneath it, fear. Noryss smiled. She'd expected this. Because whenever seniors begin releasing items, it can feel, especially to adult children, like they're preparing to disappear. But what Noryss had to explain was this. She wasn't letting go of life. She was finally embracing the one she was actually living. So she made a rule. A fair, gentle one. If you want it, claim it. You have 2 weeks. After that, it goes. No passive-aggressive comments. No guilt trips. No lingering bags by the door just in case. She invited her children to walk through the house with her. Gave them a chance to take what truly mattered to them, not out of pressure, but out of love. And what surprised her most? They took far less than she expected. A few photos. A teacup. One of her handmade quilts. The rest? They encouraged her to donate. They didn't want the clutter, they just wanted the memory. And when they saw her peace, they understood. But for those families where tension runs high, this conversation takes more care. So Noryss wrote down a few guiding lines that made it easier to say what needed to be said. I'm not erasing our memories. I'm making room to enjoy the ones that still come. I kept these things for you for years. If you don't want them now, that's okay. But I'm giving them a new home. I don't want my home to be a museum. I want it to be a place where I can still dance, still breathe, still live. Decluttering isn't an act of loss. It's a declaration of presence. And for many seniors, setting boundaries with family is the bravest part. Because it says, I still get to decide. I still get to shape my space. And I don't need to carry everyone else's memories to keep being loved. This process is not rejection. It's a quiet kind of self-respect. A way of saying, I honor the past, but I belong in the now. By the time Noryss reached her final hour of that first month, she didn't expect much. Just a quiet evening. No pressure. She lit her candle. She chose her living room, the one place she sat every day, but rarely saw. She started with the side table. Moved on to the knickknacks on the shelf. She held each item not for its story, but for its current purpose. And slowly, gently, she made space. By the end of that hour, the room didn't just look different. It felt different. Not cleaner. Not newer. Quieter. Lighter. More honest. There was one photo on the table, Her and her late husband, laughing in a park. A folded blanket on the chair she always used. A small plant by the window, catching soft light. No piles. No noise. No guilt. The silence wasn't empty. It was warm. Peaceful. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was falling behind. She felt caught up. This wasn't about minimalism. It wasn't about impressing anyone. It was about finally feeling in alignment with her own life, her real life, the one she was still living, still shaping, still worthy of attention. Noryss said it best herself. I thought I was getting rid of things. But really, I was making room for me. And that's the heart of it. Not everything you own needs to be carried forward. Not every item deserves a shelf just because it survived the years. You do not owe your space to the past. You deserve to sit in a room that reflects who you are now, not just who you used to be. So here's the invitation. Don't wait for a perfect weekend. Don't make a giant to-do list. Just set a timer. Pick one corner. And begin. 1 hour. One honest hour. Not tomorrow. Today. And when you're done, sit in the quiet. Not to plan the next step, but to feel what peace actually sounds like. If this moved you, tap that like button. Share this with someone you love who's ready to feel lighter. And if you want more moments of real, practical wisdom, subscribe. We're here for every chapter, especially the one you start next.